Hello everyone, and welcome back to a new tester work video. Today we're going to take a closer look at the updated version of the test case document. We'll take a look at all the new fields and how all these should be completed during the test case execution. The format of the test case document that we're going to take a look at today is the one that is most commonly used currently. And it covers the majority of the tests that are being run. However, occasionally you'll come across test case documents and executions that have a different format, which is fine since not all executions are the same. So let's dive into the new format of the execution we have at hand. First of all, we have a section dedicated to the device and OS versions that we are currently using. Usually it will be specified in the test case invitation if you should use a specific device or a specific OS version. It's good to always write it here as well. So for now, I'm just gonna write here with iOS 14. Okay. And sometimes you will be required to test using a specific browser, or you can pick a browser at free, but it's always good to note down here the browser that you're going to use. Okay, and in certain instances, you will have the link to the application also added here. That you can use. It will also be present in the tester specifications. Considering that we don't have any links to the app or website, that it is fine to be ignored at the time. Now let's take a closer look at the different columns and sections we have in the test case document. First, we have the TC ID. This is the test case ID. Each test case will have a different ID by which they can be identified. Also, when you have a failed test case and you want to report a specific bug for the test case, it's always good to include the TC ID in your bug report, so it's easier to check and identify. Then we have section and subsection. There's no actions needed on the tester's behalf in this section since it's only to identify the areas where the test case is addressed. Then we have the test case name. Sometimes it can be shorter, sometimes it can be longer. In our specific document that we're looking at right now, we have the title as well as some instructions. For this, it can vary from test case to test case. Then we have the steps to reproduce and the expected results. So the steps to reproduce contain all the steps that have to be followed in order to verify the outcome of the test case. In some instances, you will have prerequisites. These are special conditions that have to be fulfilled before executing the steps. If the prerequisite is not followed or not fulfilled, it is a high chance that the test case is not executed correctly and the outcome will not be correct. So after executing each step in the steps to reproduce section, you can verify the outcome in the expected results. So for example, in this case, for our first test case, we have the prerequisite to create a new account before starting to execute this test case. If this was fulfilled, we can log into the website, and after logging in, we can check the first expected result. The user can correctly log in. If this is correctly fulfilled, then it is this step is passed, and we can move on to the next one, which is selecting this sign out button, and then we can check the outcome of following the second step. So after executing each step to reproduce and checking the expected results, we can move on to assign the status for our executed test case. There are 4 statuses we can pick from. We have fail, pass, blocked and skip this test. After that, we have attachment URL, which is required for failed or blocked test cases. Actual results, also required for failed or blocked test cases. Related issues or bug IDs for any bugs that were reported with regard to this test case, and remarks. In this instance, let's say that we followed all the steps to reproduce and prerequisites, and we met all the expected results. We encountered no issues, and everything was as it was supposed to be. In this case, we'll mark the test case as passed. Then we can move on to the next section, attachment URL. Since this test case was passed, this is not necessary. There are some exceptions in case of some more special tests where an attachment URL will be necessary even for past test cases. This, however, will always be specified in the test case document. Then the actual results section, again, since this was passed, this is not necessary. Related issues, we have not encountered any bugs related to this test cases. This can be left empty, and we have the remarks section. This is a section where we can leave a comment if maybe we notice something outside of the test cases or something unusual while executing the test cases, but maybe it wasn't a bug. We can make a note for the test managers and the developers so they are aware that maybe we noticed some unusual behavior that cannot be reproduced, so they are aware of it and they can take a closer look. So now that we took a look at how to complete the test case document in case of a past test case, let's see how to proceed in case of a different status. For example, let's say that the first test case is actually failed, and while executing the steps to reproduce, we notice that we encounter a different result than what is in the expected results. Let's say that instead of the user being signed out on the first try, the users actually signed out only on the 5th or 6th try. This means that the test case would be actually failed, since the behavior is different than what is described here. So now we'll have to go to the bug tracker to see if the bug that we have experienced has already been submitted. We will have two possibilities: that the issue has indeed already been submitted by another tester, or that this has not been submitted, and in this case we will be able to submit the bug ourselves. In both cases, we will have to provide an attachment URL, actual results, and related issues, and which is the bug ID. So let's say that the bug has already been submitted by another tester. In that case, we're gonna go and take the bug ID from that bug, and we're going to add it here. And then we're gonna add the actual results as well, which is that the user is unable to sign out on the first try. And we will add an attachment URL. This will have to be our own attachment. We'll have to record the issue that is experienced on our end. So we're gonna take the recording we just did, and we're going to add it here. Now let's take a look at the second test case, and let's say that this is also failed. Let's say that during while checking the first expected result, we actually do not receive the email for the reset password. In this case, we will also have to go and check the tracker to see if a bug has already been submitted. Let's say that in this case, a bug has not yet been submitted for this issue, so we would have to go and report the issue ourselves. After which we will again take the bug ID, we will have to add the actual results and an attachment URL. Just a reminder that the attachment URL will always have to be our own recording, even if we submitted the bug or not. So let's just add this information here then. let's take the bug ID first. The actual results and our attachment URL. The attachment URL should always have this format. The attachment should always first be submitted to our tester profile, and this is how we obtain the link. And it would have this format. But what about instances when during the execution of one test case we actually encounter several bugs? Well, let's go back to the first test case and say that during the second expected result, we also notice that the user is not redirected to the store selection page as stated in the expected results, but is actually redirected to the help section. This would be another bug that we have encountered. So we would have to go to the tracker and check if this issue has also been submitted or not. And then we would have to add a bug ID for our related issue and an actual result. So let's say that we have submitted this second bug as well, and we'll have to add the needed information. So we'll go and take the bug ID of the second bug. Very important in these instances, we will have to add a comma and a space after the first bug ID before adding the second one. And then we will go to the actual results section and add the actual results for the second bug. When it comes to the attachment URL, in case of this format, it's preferable to only have one attachment added. So in this attachment, if possible, it would be nice to capture both issues occurring, or we can just add the attachment of the issue that has a bigger severity. Now let's move on to our third test case. If we take a closer look at the steps to reproduce and expected results, we can see that this test case is connected to the previous one that has been failed. Since this test case is so closely connected to the first one, and the first one could not be executed since the password reset email was not received, we will not be able to execute this test case. In this case, our test case will be blocked. Just like for failed test cases, blocked test cases also will require an attachment URL, actual results, and bug ID. Since the actual results and the bug ID are the same, we will add the above ones. And for the attachment URL, we can also add the same attachment, since this is the issue that is blocking us. All right. In this case, it's good to also add a remark that we are unable to execute this test case due to the issue that we have encountered above. This way, the TMs and the client will know that even when trying, we are unable to test this test case. There is one more status that can be applied to a test case, and that is the skip this test status. This is more rarely used. Usually you skip a test case if instructed so in the instructions by a test manager, or if certain areas are out of scope. Let's say you have a list of test cases to test on Android, and between them you also have 2 or 3 test cases that are for iOS. Then you can skip the iOS ones since they would be out of scope. But usually the instructions should be clear on whether or not certain test cases have to be skipped. I hope this video managed to cover most of your questions regarding this new format of the test case document. If at any point during the execution you have questions or anything is unclear, feel free to reach out to the test managers for any help or additional information. Thank you for watching the video and happy testing!